Texas baseball seems to have fallen off a cliff. The latest blunder coming at the hands of Texas State, and 2 point guards put on a show in round 1 of the Western Conference Playoffs. All this and more on College Crossfire.
Yes, we'll get into it. Always enthusiastic, unbelievable, hard-nosed.
All right, let me explain why Aaron Judge is getting it. You can boo me all you want.
I knew Texas was going to win, right? And then one of the Texas team was going to lose.
Cannon. I don't like the cannon.
Oh, you don't like this guy? All right, I'm done.
This is all chaos.
Welcome into College Crossfire. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm your host, Jonathan Polosic. Let's go ahead and meet our panelists. First up, we've got Steve Helwig. Steve, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you doing watching the Rockets Jazz right now?
A little frustrated, but you know, it happens. But it's Crossfire right now, so got to push that out of the mind. Up next, we got Henry Corwin. Henry, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a while.
Yeah, apparently Henry doesn't like the cannon.
It's bad.
I've grown to it a little bit, but I still don't think my opinion is that ridiculous.
Okay, fair enough.
Good.
And our returning champion in his favorite seat, the only seat he will ever sit in, Sean Mapes. How you doing?
Yeah, it's a real power trip now. it's more about, it's not about comfort. It's about just, hey, I can do this.
All right, fair enough.
It's my no trade clause.
No trade clause. Glad to have you all on tonight, so let's just jump right on in. Texas baseball is struggling. Actually, that might actually be an understatement. Texas is simply not playing good baseball right now. After climbing all the way up into the top 10, Texas is now unranked after Oklahoma State swept them this weekend. To make matters worse, Texas blew a three-run lead in the 9th inning to Texas State last night. There was a lot of excitement for this team after the LSU series, and looking at the team now, was Texas overhyped, or are they simply underperforming? Let's start with Steve.
They're underperforming. They caught fire at the beginning of that year in that LSU series, but now their bullpen's just struggling. They had that 15-0 loss against Oklahoma State where both sides, pitching and hitting, were just off. And Texas really hasn't played well recently. Their batters, nobody's hitting above 300. Zach Zubia, someone who I thought was going to be a slugger into this season, has been a little disappointing. And the team just really can't score when needed to score, and they're blowing a lot of leads just with the pitching. So this team hasn't really done anything good of lately, and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, you mentioned that Texas just doesn't have that one hitter that they can rely on to get things going, and the bullpen has just been all kinds of a mess, especially this part of the season. Henry?
Yeah, no, I agree with Steve, just like he said. I think the team is underperforming. Remember, this is a team that swept LSU at the beginning of the season. Swept, in case you didn't know.
Wait, so they won all the games?
Yes, they did.
And LSU
yes.
didn't win any of them?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, but clearly, yes. So obviously, the team's underperforming because they do have the talent to be good, but they just haven't put it all together. They're like Steve said, their pieces are not hitting. They have great talent with Austin Todd and Ryan Reynolds, but like I said, no one's hitting above 300 except for some guy who's had 3 at bats, some catcher, I forget his name, technically. So
Turner Gant.
What?
Turner Gant.
Yeah, him. Turner Gant. Yeah. Outside of him, not only no one hitting above 300, but I mean, it's hard to find guys even hitting above 275, 280. And you're not going to win many games. I mean, if you don't get the bats going.
Yeah, the offense has just gone so cold right now. If you, like you said, can't score runs, you're not going to win any games. Doesn't matter how good your pitching is. Even that's been a problem.
Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, if you can't score runs, you're not going to win any games. If you keep giving up a bunch of runs, you're not going to win. And if you do both, you're going to get swept by Oklahoma State and lose to Texas State. I mean, really, I think this team is underperforming. I think they were overhyped at the start of the year, but I don't think they're this bad. They're not getting swept, not even playing like competitive baseball games against Big 12 conference opponents and losing walk-offs to teams like Texas State, losing these like mid-week games that really you schedule just to kind of get a win. You don't really try to challenge yourself too much. So I think, some good results against LSU and early in the season against very highly ranked teams kind of inflated the expectations. I think they kind of are now underperforming for what their true talent is.
Yeah, and the one thing that we all need to remember is that Texas is without their 2 best players from last year that are on the team this year, David Hamilton and DJ Petrinsky, both out with injuries. So that's not helping Texas's cause. It's a young team as it is, and the bullpen's very young, especially. That's why they're probably giving up so many leads late in games. So Steve, you're starting off with 1 point. Henry and Sean each with 2. So what do y'all think is the biggest problem with Texas right now? And y'all can jump in at any time.
I mean, I think we all said it's the pitching. I mean, I think that's the biggest problem. The bullpen obviously has not performed well at all. But then if you look, Texas hasn't gone out of the first inning without giving up a run in about a week. So that it's not just the bullpen; it's also the starters. They haven't been performing as well. They kind of get a pass because the bullpen's been performing worse, and then also the hitting's also not there. So it's a little bit of everything. But I think starting pitching, just starting the game in the hole, kind of depending on your offense from the first inning on, puts your team in a bad position.
I mean, there's just so many things to pick from. So that's really the
You're not
problem.
wrong.
I mean, like the batting's not good. Like he alluded to starting pitching. I was going to talk about the bullpen. Bullpen's ERA is, I mean, it's atrocious. It really
very
is.
high. It's very high.
It's not. You would think I don't even know what it compared to. But I mean, it's so to tell you what the biggest problem is. I mean, I would have to say I'd probably have to go with the hitting, just because. I mean, like I said, they have a lot of talent who just haven't been able to really put the pieces together, and it's tough when you. I mean, I understand, like I said, like the bullpen and stars have been problems. When you don't get runs on the board, it doesn't give a lot of confidence to your bullpen.
Steve?
I mean, when you've lost 6 out of 8 games, you can't just put it on one thing. So you're going to have to put some of it on the pitching, some on hitting. Right now, I think I'm going to put more on the hitting just because they've had a disappointing season. I said half the lineup's hitting 250 or below right now, and they don't have a single player with more than 4 home runs on the team, so they don't have a reliable hitter that they can get on base really easily. And Texas, they've been underperforming lately. The Kansas State series was a sign of things to come. That was a bad Kansas State team. And then Oklahoma State sweeps them, and now they're at the bottom, second last in the Big 12. This team doesn't look like it has much hope left in it. Pitching's been bad, batting's been bad. Just an awful follow-up act to a College World Series appearance.
Yeah, the hitting's been quite an issue, and it's not going to get any easier with the likes of West Virginia and Oklahoma coming in. West Virginia having one of the best pitchers in the country on Friday. That could be a real struggle for Texas. So, Steve, you're getting 3. Henry, another 3. Sean with 2. So, head coach David Pierce said that this team is in survival mode after the series loss to the Cowboys. Is that the case with this team, or maybe not?
You know what this team reminds me of?
Who?
This reminds me of my hometown New York Mets. Every season, they start out great, including this season, and especially after last season when they started out, I think 13-1. I told myself, I can't get excited about a hot start anymore. So this team, I would say they're in survival mode because they're sitting very at the bottom, not the very bottom, but towards the end, towards the bottom of the Big 12. I think they're only 5-6.
They're about like 5-9 in the Big
5
12.
and 9, yeah, that's even worse. So, yeah, so
5 and 6 before they got swept this weekend.
I forgot. Yeah, I completely forgot about the sweep. But yeah, no, I would definitely say they're in survival mode, just like the Mets are in every season.
Sean, Steve?
I mean, they're not going to die if they lose every game, so I don't think they're in survival mode. And Bear Grylls isn't the coach of the team. David Pierce is. I mean, I get what he's saying that, this team, their season's on life support, to use another unnecessarily morbid metaphor. But, I think this team still has a lot of talent, but they just haven't been playing. They're not peaking at the right time, so I guess it is in survival mode again.
Yeah, because their postseason hopes are in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Especially with that loss.
The lights flickering off.
Yes, this most recent loss to Texas State does not help their cause at all. Steve?
I think you have to say this team's season's kind of on life support just because of what's ahead. I mean, their home series next is a series against ranked number 17 West Virginia, a team that's been really hot right now and brings really good pitchers to the table, something Texas's batters might struggle with. And then they have to go up to Kansas for a road series, and they haven't been good on the road, as we saw in Stillwater. So this Texas team doesn't really it looks bleak, the future, and I think it's just time to put this season to rest because it's not going anywhere to the College World Series.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't look good, and the issue with Texas is they could take 2 of 3 from each of these remaining conference series. They'd still finish under 500 in Big 12 play, which is not an ideal situation if you want to make it to the postseason. So I think that this team is on life support. They are in survival mode. So Steve, you're getting 2 points. Henry 1. Sean another 2. So after the latest loss to Texas State, Texas's postseason chances are now in doubt. Do you think that this team makes a regional? Yes or no?
No,
Why?
because they're bad.
All right, fair enough.
yeah. Have you heard the first part of this block? We just said the hitting's bad, the starting pitching's bad, and the bullpen's bad. That's not a recipe for success. So yeah.
Contrary to popular belief.
Yeah,
it's not.
you know, you gotta score runs. Well, they can't do that. You have to be able to pitch well. They can't do that. I don't see it.
So that being said, they are going to make a regional. No,
Yeah.
no. I would say. I mean, yeah, well, you said that they have to win. If they take 2 out of 3 in the next 3 series, they're still sitting below 500. So, and that's a really hard thing to do, especially with the way they've been playing. So, no, I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, I have to kind of agree with all of y'all. I just don't see Texas making it into the postseason now. I mean, still got a couple of non-conference games left against Texas State again, Incarnate Word, which they've already lost to once before earlier this season. Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and then West Virginia, Kansas, Oklahoma. No guaranteed wins. So each of y'all finishing off with 1 point. That's it for now. When we return, a few Longhorns hope to have their names called in the NFL draft, and the NHL Playoffs has had no shortage of surprises so far. Stick around. We got 7s all around, lucky 7s. So, still
Like a
anybody's
slot
game.
machine.
Only
Yeah.
for one person.
At the end, yes.
Yeah.
The NFL draft starts tomorrow, and while the Longhorns have several players eligible for the draft, not everyone will be drafted. Some of the biggest names from last year's teams that could be drafted include Charles Omenihu, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Chris Boyd, and Gary Johnson, among others. But of all the players in this year's draft class, which player has the highest draft stock? Let's start with Steve.
I don't even think there's a question about it. It's Charles Omenihu. He's somebody who had playing time at Texas all 4 years and just executed and made the most of it on the field. His last year, he had 18 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, and just dominated the Sugar Bowl, dominated Georgia's offensive line in that game. He put up even good numbers on the combine, 4.92 on his 40-yard dash, and has been just wowing scouts with a lot of his frame, 6'5", 280, very strong guy at the offensive line, can power through linemen and shed off blocks. Just a very good run stopper overall, and this is someone who I see with a great NFL future just because he has so much talent all around, and he should be a day 2 pick in my opinion.
Yeah, and you get him in the right situation with the right defensive coordinator, he could just be a force at the next level. Henry?
Yeah, while I would love to, make the show interesting and give a different answer, I have to agree with Steve, with Charles Omenihu. As a wise man once said, I think it was Colin Coward. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, so we're stretching wise.
It might be stretching. Yeah. As I've heard in the past, the 2 things you need, you want a quarterback and you want to get a guy who can get to the quarterback.
I don't think Colin Kaepernick.
I don't know. Maybe he retweeted it. But that's why I would say Charles Omenihu, great pass rusher, can get the quarterback off his spot, and with that, I would really love to. I think he would be a great.
All right, so another Omenihu. Sean, what do you
I was distracted
think?
by the laughing.
Sean, what do you think?
I mean, definitely Charles Omenihu is the guy mocked to go higher. He's the guy, that is probably going to hear his name called 2nd, 3rd round. But I think the guy with the most kind of star potential, the guy who has the best chance of being a huge impact player on the next level, I think it's Lil Jordan Humphrey. You saw him make countless just giant plays for this Texas team last year, and even going back another year, but especially this year, kind of came into his own. He makes some grown man plays where guys just can't tackle him in college. I think if he puts on a little bit more weight, he can play in tight end at the next level, and really, because think about tight ends, they're not, there's a lot of tight ends that don't ever block, and I think he can be a guy who you just put him in the seam and he can just make plays on tiny cornerbacks or run past linebackers.
Yeah, he could really be a steal for whichever team does end up drafting him, or if he goes undrafted, signs with a team as an undrafted free agent, he could really make an impact for whichever team that he eventually does go to. So, Sean, I'm going to go with you. You're getting the point. I think Lil Jordan Humphrey has a lot of high upside.
Mm-hmm.
Combine numbers just didn't show it. So, moving on. If you weren't watching last night's Thunder Blazers game, then you missed quite a show. Damian Lillard was a man on a mission. 50 points, 7 boards, 6 assists, and oh yeah, a 37-foot buzzer-beating, series-clinching three-pointer right in Paul George's face. Russell Westbrook, on the other hand, put up yet another triple-double with 29 points, but left the playoffs in the first round once again. Lillard and Westbrook are two of the best point guards on the planet, but if you were to build a franchise around one of those players, who would you choose? Start with Henry.
You know, after last night, I actually think this is a bad question to ask because I don't think it's very controversial at this point. So I don't know which idiot came up with this question. It was me, by the way. So, it was me.
Wow.
Okay.
Daniel's off the hook.
But to answer this question, you know, I've given both these point guards a lot of criticism, but I think you have to go with Lillard, mostly because, you know, the fact that he can shoot and Westbrook can't is, I know that sounds very simple, but it really is a big deal with the way the NBA is going. And Westbrook's decision making, as I've stated on my radio show, by the way, is just not up to par with what you need. You need a point guard. You need someone who can score, but you also need a good floor general in today's game. And if you asked every GM who would you rather have right now, everyone would say Lillard. And I think a lot of GMs secretly wouldn't even want Westbrook on the team.
All right, fair enough. Wouldn't want Westbrook. Sean.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, who's going to watch that game-winning shot and be like, nah, give me the other guy? I mean, 50-point, it's Lillard. One thing, I think Russell Westbrook reminds me a lot of Allen Iverson, where he's a guy who is a great player, but the team kind of has to be a Russell Westbrook team, just like any team with Allen Iverson kind of has to be an Allen Iverson team. The ball has to go through him, so he's going to put up great numbers. He's going to average triple doubles. Hey, that's great. Yeah. But the second round of the playoffs isn't just, you're not going to see Russell Westbrook. I think Dame Lillard's the obvious choice. They're about the same age. Dame's actually about a year and a half younger. I think Dame's game is also going to age a little bit better. He's not as reliant on athleticism, and he shoots 36% from three, where Russell Westbrook had to get a hot streak to get up over 30 this year. So give me Lillard.
Yeah, it's been brutal for Westbrook this year if you look beyond the triple doubles. Steve.
I think this would have been a really interesting question a year ago when the Blazers were getting swept. I'm taking Lillard, and here's the thing. Lillard has faced adversity many times in his career, and every single time he overcomes it in dominant fashion. When he has all-star snubs, he comes back from that. All-NBA snubs, comes back from that with even better seasons. And now a playoff sweep and his worst playoff performance ever is followed up by being the leading scorer of the NBA playoffs right now, closing out with a 50-point game and the boldest shot in NBA history. This is a guy who can shoot 8 for 12 from 30 feet. I'll take him on my team. He can shoot. Westbrook can't. Lillard is a better decision maker, knows his own strengths a lot better, and just overall, he's been a better teammate, and the Blazers are a 3 seed once again, and they're going to the second round.
Yeah, I have to agree with all of y'all. If I'm building a franchise, I'm taking Lillard over Westbrook any day. The game's all about spacing and shooting. It's Dame time, that's right. So everybody's getting a point.
Great question.
So moving on. Chaos. That's been the overarching theme of this year's NHL playoffs so far. 3 of the league's 4 division winners have already been knocked out of the playoffs, and the Hurricanes look to make it an even 4-for-4 tonight. It's currently in overtime. The Tampa Bay Lightning, who tied the league's record for wins in a season, were swept, and the Colorado Avalanche knocked out the Calgary Flames in 5 games. So, are you surprised by the amount of upsets so far in this postseason? Let's start with Sean.
I'm going to say in general no, because every hockey fan within the first 10 seconds of having conversation with them, they're going to say that the NHL playoffs are better than the NBA playoffs, which, yeah, okay. Sorry that all the teams that, dominate the season, yeah, you only get to see one series of them. Then all the bad teams get to play for the championship. Sorry that the NBA is going to have all these great teams in the second round play against each other. I'm really sorry that hockey, no, let's get all the bad teams. Let's get Colorado in here. Let's get Dallas. Get out of here.
Yeah. Answer a different question.
Yeah, Sean just went on a rant.
But yeah, no, I'm not surprised. How about that? Not surprised.
There we go.
Crash
There's the answer.
sport.
There's
Crash.
the answer. Steve?
I'm not surprised at all. NHL playoffs have always been a different sport than NHL regular season, and it's all about the hot goalies, and that's something we've seen. 2 of the 4 goalies with over a 93% save percentage right now are Sergei Bobrovsky of the Blue Jackets, and then Philip Grubauer of the Avalanche, 2 of the 8 seeds, essentially. And then we saw an 8 seed win the Stanley Cup in 2012 with the Los Angeles Kings, who won as a 6 seed a couple years later. I mean, a lot of these series just seem more like coin flips. There's a lot less variability in the scores in NHL as compared to other sports, and upsets should be more common. There's a lot of games that go to overtime. I just think it's, in general, if you have a goalie who's hot and confident, you're going to advance.
All right, so Steve's not surprised. Hot goalie play being the reason why. Henry?
Yeah, I'm going to agree that I'm not surprised, and I'm going to and allude to a point that Steve made, is that, you know, the NHL playoffs reminds me a lot of the MLB playoffs in the sense that it's not really about who's the best team, it's who gets hot at the right moment. Because it's more of a team, like, for example, in the NBA, it kind of is about who's the best team, and it's a star-driven sport where, like, two great players, two superstars, can carry a team really far, except in OKC's case, but can carry a team far. But in the NHL, it's more of a team sport, and it's not as star-driven, so like he said, there would be more variability.
Yeah, I think I'm really not surprised either. And Steve and Henry, you're each getting the point. So I would give you a point too, Sean, but you kind of went on a rant about something completely different.
Honestly, I don't know what happened.
You kind of answered the same.
I don't know what happened there.
No, it's definitely a lot more more variable, like you said, Henry, and it just makes the NHL playoffs more interesting. So Steve and Henry each getting a point. So great debate, guys. That's it for now. We've got rapid fire up next. Stick around. Welcome back to College Crossfire. It's time for rapid fire. Let's go ahead and remind everybody of the score. We've got 9s all around.
Wow.
So, you know,
Still
nothing
anyone's
new. Nothing new.
Still anyone's ball game?
Why are you taking my lines? You're taking my lines. It
rigged-
is still anyone's
Rigged
game.
for money or ratings?
I'm watching it live.
It is still anyone's game because in rapid fire, each question is worth 2 points, and you can jump in at any time. So slumps are a part of sports. No athlete is ever going to ride a hot streak for the duration of a long career. Hitters can't seem to find open field in baseball, pitchers can't throw strikes, and shooters can't hit a shot to save their lives. Klay Thompson may have found his own personal cure for his most recent slump, jumping into the Pacific Ocean. After averaging only 13 points and hitting 4 total threes in 3 games against the Clippers, he poured in 32 on 6 threes in Game 4 after jumping into the Pacific. So you're in a slump in whichever sports you play in. What are you doing to get out of that slump?
You know what's actually the best thing to do is to take a little break and not play for a little while, because then what you do is when you come back, you forget all your bad habits, and so that causes you to play better.
Okay, so
I have proof, like myself.
Okay, so not playing.
Just
Steve,
taking a little rest, mental break, and yeah.
physical and mental
Mental,
break.
yeah.
Steve, Sean.
I think you have to gain confidence in your abilities. Like if you're playing basketball, you need to practice against other competition to make yourself better. So I'm calling up Russell Westbrook and just one-on-one, 1v1ing Russell Westbrook over and over again to build up my confidence. I mean, it'll make me look like a better defender with all the shots breaking in.
Okay, so we're playing against Russell Westbrook. Sean, what do you think?
I'm sorry, Russell Westbrook. I'm so sorry.
If you're watching this, I apologize.
I was the nicest by far out of any of them. You know, in basketball, you're always looking to get the hot hand. You know, just how do you get your hand hot? Take steroids
Do
or
that.
heat up your hand. I say you just lightly burn your hand just to release some of the tension. Just, you know, the back of your hand. You can still use the inside of your hand. The back of your hand, get some of the hair off a little. Get the hot hand.
Get the hot hand. I like it. Physically getting the hot hand. Sean, you're getting the 2 points. We're moving on. Not many major sports are played on ice. Hockey and the different variations of ice skating all come to mind. Luge, skeleton, and curling are all big during the Winter Olympics, but there isn't a whole lot else. So what other sport that's not currently played on ice would you like to see played on ice?
Swimming.
Swimming? Okay, so swimming. So explain.
You put your body on the ground and you just flail around until you slide across.
Alrighty.
It's like the baby race.
Capture the flag. That should be an Olympic sport, first of all.
Okay.
Second of all, on ice, be just as cool. Capture the flag.
Could be pretty dangerous. I don't know.
All sports are dangerous.
Yeah, or all sports are dangerous on ice. I say, you know.
You can't skate.
Oh, is it on skates?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on skates. Okay, that makes it a little bit different.
Oh, you gotta put
That's what
on
I meant,
skates,
yeah.
man. Yeah, gotta put on skates. Give me football, just because it gets all the physicality of hockey, but then you're also just throwing a ball around, and you get tackled, then you hit your head on the ice. I feel like that real. Oh, maybe need to improve the helmets a little.
Probably.
And then just throw it on some ice.
All right, so we got football, capture the flag, and swimming. I'm gonna go swimming. That's just so much more entertaining. That's so much more entertaining.
Thought I had it in the bag.
You know, you still got a shot because you know what I'm gonna do? I'm making this last one worth 3 points because I'm feeling so generous. So, being the #1 overall draft pick in the NFL draft comes with a lot of responsibility. You're tasked with turning around an entire franchise in most cases, but it also comes with a lot of perks. You make a lot of money off your rookie contract alone, and you typically become one of the faces of the franchise. So if you were picked #1 overall in the NFL draft, what would you do to celebrate the occasion? Anybody can jump in.
All right, so first,
I know what I would do.
So first, I'm gonna go up on the stage, and Roger Goodell's gonna go for the hug. I'm not hugging that guy. A, I don't know that guy. I'm not hugging a man I don't know. B, don't agree with some of the stuff he did, so I'm going for the fake out on the thing, and then to celebrate, you said, you know, I got a lot of money now. It's springtime. The weather's warming up. You can go out.
I know where this is going.
Maybe go out to the lake. I say you go on a boat. You rent
Interesting.
out a
That's
boat.
kind of what I was thinking too.
Great minds.
I don't know,
Great
man.
minds.
Pretty interesting. Steve, Henry.
I mean, I can't really think of it on the top of my head, so I'm just gonna give the answer that all the #1 picks would say to be politically correct. I would just get in the gym, man. Just get straight to work and you know, try to make my team better every
It's
day.
kind of boring. Come on.
It is
You
drunk
gotta
on a boat.
celebrate. You gotta celebrate.
Hey, you know how the game is my celebration. That's all I need.
All right. Fair enough. Steve.
So if I want to become a fan favorite with my team right away, I know exactly what to do. So I coordinate something with one of my friends, or I actually get 2 other friends in on this. One to hold a mini basketball hoop behind Roger Goodell. The other to throw me an alley-oop, so when I get up, instead of shaking his hand, I catch the ball in the mini basketball hoop and I dunk on Roger Goodell. Applause all out through Nashville. Everyone loves you, and then you're instantly a fan favorite.
I think that's applause all throughout the country, not just Nashville. But you know what?
That being said,
You know what? What I would do, like Sean says, I would go on a boat. I like the boat. I'm going on the boat. Sean, you're getting the 3 points. You're getting
That
the
ship
win.
has sailed.
It's sailed now. It's definitely sailed now. Do we have time for FaceTime?
how many rings is that?
Yes, we do. All right, we do have time for FaceTime. Sean, take it away.
Great question, Henry. How many rings is that? I already lost count. I don't know. In the words of a wise man, to quote Henry Corwin, in the words of a wise man, all I do is win, 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 no matter what. However the rest of the song goes.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm sure there are words. I'm sure it's quality stuff. A lot of people doubted me. A lot of haters and doubters thought, you know, maybe the game's passed me by. Maybe the Crossfire game's passed me by. I'm here to say, I'm still here, man. I'm still here like Tom Brady. I'm the Tom Brady of college Crossfire. How about that?
All right.
You're retiring this year, though, right? Are you not?
We'll see.
We don't know. We don't know yet. We're going to figure that out. So, but that's all the time that we have for tonight. Congratulations to our winner, Sean Mapes. Make sure to tune in to our sister show, College Press Box, on Mondays at 9:30 p.m. And be sure to join us again next Wednesday at 9 for College Crossfire's alumni show, where you'll get to meet some familiar faces. Don't forget to follow at TSTV Sports on social media. And for all the panelists and everyone in studio and master control, I'm Jonathan Polasic. Have a wonderful evening.